Probably the best concept that Dokkan has ever introduced is the process of an EZA for an old unit, right? So in case you guys aren't familiar, an EZA is basically when we take an old unit and make it somewhat even better, right? Like sometimes it's a flop, but a lot of the times you can take a unit that was 6 feet under the ground and put them all the way up to the sky with how good it may be. But when we think about EZAs, we think of LR EZAs, Dokkan Fest EZAs, and one thing that we kind of tend to forget about is the sub EZAs that could potentially come with the celebration. So sometimes we like to do some custom EZA concepts over here on 5.9 Mobile, and for that we're going to have somebody that is how do we put this, a veteran in making the EZA concepts and stuff like that. Usually he does not like to appear in these videos as he's behind the scenes, but today we have one of our dear editors, Mr. Juki, coming out to do some concepts for you. How you doing today, Juki?
I'm all right. I've put a lot of work into these. I'm very excited to see what people think and see if they're up to standard for the community, because that's one big thing.
Whenever I hear Juki say I put a lot of work into this, I know it's going to be good. So for the first theme of EZAs that we're going to be doing today, this is going to be a multi-part series, but the first recording that we are going to do is Android themed. So Juki went ahead and put together 3 separate EZAs for an Android 16, an Android 17, and an Android 18. If you want to figure out which ones they are, go ahead and stay tuned and you will obviously see each one, but we're going to go into the list of 16, 17, and 18. So let's go ahead and get into Android 16. Now, he decided to go with the int Android 16 for an EZA, and if you guys don't know anything about this int Android 16, you probably haven't been around long enough to know the controversy that came around with this 16, but if you have been around, you know. He was basically dead on arrival, just based on the way they built him, and basically the one thing that kind of put him under the dirt, as we mentioned earlier, is the fact that he's an int unit, when the unit that he is supposed to be really good for is AGL. He's not on the leader skill with Gohan. He cannot help Gohan transform because they just can't be ran on the same team together, really, and he's just really not good for anything at this point. So, like I said, Juki just went ahead and did these concepts, so I'll go ahead and let him explain a little bit more on the specifics.
Okay, so we'll start with leader skill, just Android Cell Saga, Key 4, 130. It's just a small buff. It's most of these are banner units or just SSRs on random pools, so they don't really have the leader skills that Dokkan Fest TORs have, but that's fine. Super attack, raises defense 110, causes supreme damage, lowers enemy attack, and massively lowers defense. Originally, all he did was just massively lower defense, which in this day and age is not very good for any unit ever. They need something else, and just giving him lower attack will just help in like early phases of fights. Think like Sin Shenron or any extreme Super Battle Road stage. And we'll get into the meat now, the passive, which is very different. So originally it was just attack and defense 100%, high chance of guarding all attacks, defense 100, and all allies Key 3 and attack 50 when your team has Super Saiyan 2 Gohan or Super Saiyan Gohan Youth attacking in the same turn. Not very good. So I changed the 100 to 150 and the high chance to guards to great.
Yep.
When there is a Gohan on the team, he now gets a guaranteed guard and an extra 150 defense, which really should help. The biggest problem with this unit is just, in most units, is that their guard chance is always like medium chance, high chance, or like when it's activated, it's only up for 4 turns. Think like STR Namek Goku, Ultimate Gohan. Like, they're great units, but they have the stats to back it up, while this guy is kind of just on the sidelines. And when Gohan is on the same turn, he gives the whole rotation Key 3 and attack and defense 50%. So he gives that big buff, but now it's a defensive buff as well. So if he's in slot 3, you can have Gohan in slot 1. He'll actually be able to transform because 16 will be on the rotation, but both of these guys have been buffed quite nicely with the AGL Cell coming out, being an Android Cell Saga leader for just 170, and this 16 fitting on his 200%, as far as I remember. Is he an Android?
Yeah. You mentioned a lot there, and I kind of see like the way Akatsuki kind of works at this point is they the lead devs who made Tech Gohan, they can't sleep at night because of what they did with him with the guaranteed guard. That's essentially where we're at this point.
Yeah.
He's so like, it's like anytime you have a unit that has a guard chance, you can almost never expect it to go to be a unconditional guard, just because. And especially like you mentioned it, right, with the stats, this guy, even with guard, it's probably not going to save him in most content. And it still doesn't mask the problem where you have to run them with a Gohan, and the fact you can't really mesh them that well. But you do bring up a good point with the AGL Cell team. But again, like, I'd rather just kind of run like androids and power absorption units rather than just throwing this Super Saiyan on there, right? Just because he gets the
exactly.
support.
That's fair enough.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not like with EZAs, they don't give you like a whole full course meal of fixes. They kind of like leave a problem in, but buff them enough to the point where it's somewhat good. You think of like a really good, well-designed EZA that coincides well with its own kit is the LR Goku Black and Zamasu, right? Where it's like they need to build up, but while they're building up, you have the guard for those like first 3 turns where you can take all those hits, and then you kind of, when your guard goes away, you're already at 700k defense, so you're a lot more respectable. But with a guy like this, I really don't know where the meat and potatoes is going to come that's going to save this guy, but I would say this is a pretty good sub EZA concept.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It was really hard thinking of ways to like actually buff this guy in a way that keep the sort of like original design, because obviously the way they do EZAs is not just completely shift the unit. It's always just buff up, as you said, buff up as much as they can, but still kind of leave as a consistent problem.
Yeah.
Especially with guard units.
You look at a unit like Tech Super Saiyan 3 Broly in specific, where it's like he still has that core hole of losing defense on orbs, or you look at physical Go tanks where you have to prioritize getting the 11 key to make sure you get that super effective against all types and whatnot. I would say that would be the same problem here. And with this guy, you know, we went on about 16 enough, right? It's like he still has the problem of Gohan needs to be around, and you can't really run him with Gohan consistently. But I would say that this would be a pretty substantial buff. But let's go ahead and move on to the next sub EZA. What number comes after 16? I hope you guys know it's 17. If not, you know, we need to talk. But what Juki decided to do was a Tournament of Power Tech Android 17. You probably pulled this guy a bunch and hated it. So hopefully his sub EZA makes that a little bit less painful to see this guy.
Yeah, no, one big thing with this, and not spoilers, the Tech Android 18 that I did pick, these units are designed to work together. So realistically, you're going to want to run them side by side. Most of the time you want to run 17 and 18 together. They share a lot of links, but the main thing with 17 is he's built to be a damage dealer. Leader skill is Tech 3 key and HP attack and defense 110. Again, all the leader skills across this series are not going to be great unless they're very niche and specific. So super attack is supreme damage and raises attack and defense for 6 turns. Normally he raises attack for 6 turns right now without an EZA, so just giving that defensive buff makes him really good, because a 6-turn 30% buff can really go places if they're constantly getting additionals and just buffing themselves nicely, especially if he's a main rotation unit. And his original passive is 1 line. It's attacking defense 70% plus an additional attack 15 and defense 10% per tech key sphere obtained.
Ooh, he's a nuker.
Yeah, he's a nuker. Specifically with tech key spheres. That's the biggest thing we changed was...
Does he change orbs?
He doesn't. Android 18 does.
There you go. Okay.
So his passive is attack and defense 100% plus an additional 18 and defense 17% per key sphere obtained, plus an additional attack and defense 5% per key sphere obtained if Android 18 is on the team, plus gain a medium chance to crit if the character Android 18 is attacking in the same turn. So when, as most people will know, the tracksuit 18 is the one I'm talking about, she changes physical orbs normally. So if he can get a bunch of tech key spheres or just any key spheres in general, having 18 and 17% on both attack and defense will really help, plus the 5% multiplicative. I mean, think of the STR Margin Vegeta. When he's up against a Goku family enemy, that guy can hit really, really good numbers and pretty high defensive stats, especially because he greatly raises. And that's the kind of thing I went for with this, just less about the enemy and more about your team build. So, what are your thoughts, Bill?
I think you did a really good job of incorporating Tech Android 18 into this. I think that's kind of like the main thing. And one thing that you really kind of harped on that I'd like to kind of reiterate is the fact that even with the Dokkan Fest EZAs, they really aren't making these EZAs to be leaders anymore. And they're more of just kind of to fill out teams, especially with sub EZAs. Like, these are 2 units that could really potentially fill out a Tournament of Power kind of theme team with the Universe 7 or Siblings Bond. They could really look well on Siblings Bond, I think. But yeah, I think that as long as the defense is high enough and one of these 2 can be ran in slot 1, I'd say this is a pretty effective rotation looking at both of these kits. Yeah.
If we want to quickly shift into Android 18 as well, because they come as a pair. Hair leader skill, it's just Tech Key 3, 90% to all stats. Infinitely worse than 17, but again, that doesn't really matter. Here, SA is supreme damage and raises defense by 50% for 6 turns, which normally she just does raise defense by 30% for 6 turns. So rather than giving her an attack buff, you'll see in the rest of the passive, she's more built to be the support unit for 17 while he deals all the damage. So you'd probably end up running 17 slot 1, 18 slot 2.
Yep.
We get into a passive, she gets 100% attack and defense start turn. She changes physical key spheres to tech key spheres and gets 17% attack and 18% defense per key sphere obtained. Androids or representative universe 7 allies attacking defense 25% with 3 or more key spheres obtained. Performs an additional attack that has a medium chance of being a super when there is an Android 17 attacking in the same turn. So biggest thing was that I saw Weirus and went, I want to do that.
Yeah, I'd say that's a very good kind of idea. Like I said, I really like this kind of pairing of 17 and 18, because when you think about units in Dokkan, like the only real 17 and 18 aside from like the Dokkan Fest TUR that you really kind of run together are the free-to-play STR and Tech 1, you know, the ones I'm talking about.
Yeah, you get like
stack and stuff
massive buffs when you're against Earthlings or hybrids.
Yeah, and I really like when they kind of do these little niche things, and I think that works really well with free-to-play, because then it's like, oh, hey, look, this one very specific situation we have some free-to-play units for. And the way these two are kind of handled, they might as well be free-to-play units. Like, if you're a veteran of this game, I'd be hard-pressed to imagine you don't have them sitting with all their paths opened at this point. I feel like I've pulled these guys a gazillion times, and, you know, maybe you don't have one of them rainbowed, but I'd say that this could really potentially be a solid rotation, and I would really kind of like to see where this one goes. But it really is tough, right? Just the way the power creep is moving so fast, it feels like. And obviously, I don't think any of these guys are going to just go into Cell Max and pimp slap him, but...
No, that's not really the intention.
You just can't unless you're, like, it has to be a new Dokkan Fest with completely unique concepts and kind of 2022 mechanics of guard and built-in damage reduction support, stuff like that. And again, but also I think if you use Cell Max as the bar, this isn't the subject of the video, right? But you're just never going to be able to meet expectations if you use everything in the standard of Cell Max, right? Oh
yeah, absolutely not. These guys are more akin to like harder ESBR stages or red zones, like middling red zone stages. So not like your Broly's or your Metal Cooler Cores, but kind of like the Bojacks, Janembas, like the hard content, but not too hard to the point where that it will crush you in one turn if your rotations are a bit messed up.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so that is 3 sub EZAs for the androids. Let us know what you guys think down below. If you think that Juki is completely off his rocker with these, I don't think he is. I think he's they're realistic enough. It's not to the point where like these guys are going to be more busted than any Dokkan Fest coming out. But if you did find yourself enjoying today's video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe if you are new around here to 5-9 Mobile. We have 2 more of these coming up for some other sub EZAs that Juki did. Look for those in the near future. Turn on notifications so you don't miss out when we post these. My name has been Vilify. It's been a pleasure hosting for you. I'm signing out.